Good morning, 7th graders. So for today's class, I just wanted to briefly go over the answers for yesterday's homework with you. And then after that, I'm going to have you guys move on to the next part of your fractions packet. Okay, so just to briefly go over the answers that you guys submitted yesterday, you're asked to shade the indicated portion of the circle. What you're going to do is you're going to turn these into equivalent fractions out of whatever denominator was given to you by the sections in the circle. So this circle was cut into fourths. I have a little friend on my lap here. So this circle was cut into fourths to start, and so we were trying to figure out how can we make 3/12 equivalent. How can we write an equivalent fraction where the denominator is in fourths? And the way we're going to do that is we're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 3/12 is equivalent to 1/4. We're going to shade 1/4 of the circle. We're going to go through the same exact process with part B. We're going to divide the numerator and the denominator both by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4, we're left with 3/4. We shade in 3/4 of the circle. 8/12, we're going to divide the numerator and the denominator both by 4, so we're going to get an equivalent fraction of 2/3. So the way that we figure out, what number are we going to divide the numerator and the denominator by, the way we figure that out is we look for the greatest common factor of, Parker has something to say. So we look for the greatest common factor of the numerator and the denominator. So in the case of 8/12, what's the GCF of 8 and 12? It's going to be 4. So we'll go 8 divided by 4 equals 2, go 12 divided by 4 equals 3, and that's going to give us our fraction in lowest terms. All right, so I did the same process for the next two fractions. These were a little bit more difficult because 5/8, we can't really reduce that into fourths because 5 is not divisible by 2 evenly into whole numbers. So what we did is we just cut our fraction, we cut our circle into eighths, which means we're going to divide each fourth by 2. So we're going to end up with 2/4 shaded and then half of a fourth shaded to represent 5/8 because half of a fourth equals an eighth. For 9/10, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to divide our fifths in half. We'll divide our tenths in half, which will give us fifths, and then we'll just have one piece missing out of the whole pie to represent that one piece missing. The 9/10 is missing 1/10, so our diagram should also be missing 1/10. All right, so we're going to move down to the second portion of your work yesterday. So here we're just writing equivalent fractions. We're looking to multiply the numerator by the same thing that we multiplied or divided the denominator by in order to create an equivalent fraction. So if I'm multiplying 3 by 2 up here to get 6, I can't then go down here and multiply 4 by 3. I must multiply the numerator by the same thing that I'm multiplying the denominator by. So I'm multiplying by 2 up here, I must multiply by 2 down here. So 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to multiply 4 by 2 also to get 8. So 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. Same thing here, multiplying by 3 on the top and the bottom, I'm going to get 9/15. Here I'm dividing by 4 on the top and the bottom, I'm going to get 4/5. Here I'm dividing by 8 on the numerator and the denominator, I'm going to get 1/3. Over here I have an improper fraction, so my numerator is greater than my denominator, which means this fraction represents more than 1. This represents 8/7, so 8/7. So it would be 1 and 1/7 if we were to turn that into a mixed number. Over here, this one was kind of funny. I wasn't sure why exactly they gave you this type of a problem. But 2/5, if we're going to convert that into an equivalent fraction with a numerator of 5, we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator both by 2.5. So this is not generally the way that you'll see a fraction. You're not generally going to see a decimal in a fraction, but here it is for this problem. So for part G, we have 6/9. We're going to reduce, and they give you this hint right here. It says reduce 6/9. We're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3. So we're going to get 2/3. And then from 2/3, we can write the equivalent fraction 14/21. 2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 7 is 21. So 6/9 is equivalent to 14/21. All right, so for part H, I did a really similar process here. I went from 24/32 to 3/4. I divided both the numerator and the denominator by 8 to get 3/4. And then to write an equivalent fraction, I went 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12. So that's how I wrote my equivalent fraction with a numerator of 9 from 24/32. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you guys to do today, and I have attached this to your Google Classroom assignment, I'm going to ask you to complete the second page here of your fractions packet. So the first page we did yesterday, part A. This is the second page, it's still part A. So they're not particularly difficult problems, so you guys really shouldn't have too hard of a time with this. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be converting all of these fractions into 24ths. So we'll do an example together. If I'm converting 1/3 into 24ths, so I can say 1/3 equals something over 24. And you may be asking, well, where did you get that number 24? I got that from the direction. So the direction says a pizza is cut into 24 slices. How many slices should you eat in order to eat blank? Okay, so we're using 24 as our denominator because 24 represents the total number of slices in the pizza. So 3 times what equals 24? Well, I know that 3 times 8 equals 24, right? 8, 16, 24. So if I'm multiplying 3 times 8 to get my denominator, I must multiply 1 times 8 to get my numerator. So 1/3 of the pizza is going to be equivalent to 8/24 of the pizza. Okay, so you guys are just going to repeat that process this whole way down, and you're going to convert all of these fractions into equivalent fractions that have a denominator of 24. Okay, so that's what you're doing there. When you move down to the second part, if you eat 12/24 of the pizza, you eat 12/24 pieces or half the pizza. If you eat 5/10 of the pizza, you eat half, although the pizza would be sliced differently. Thus, 12/24 equals 5/10. This is just giving you basically an example of a way to create equivalent fractions. So 8/24 equals 1/3, which equals 3/9, which equals, we could go on forever. We could multiply 3 times 5, which equals 15, 9 times 5, which equals 45. So you could do 15/45 is equivalent to 8/24, right? You can write an infinite number of equivalent fractions as long as you're multiplying the numerator and the denominator both by the same number. So here they're going to ask you to use that logic to produce equivalent fractions. And then again on the bottom here, just some practice naming the shaded portion of a fraction. So today what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go through the second page. I don't think it'll take you a terribly long time, but I want you to do a good job and double check your work and be careful about it. So once you finish this, many of you are doing this already, but the most efficient way that I've found to collect work is going to be through that Google Classroom Turn-In feature. It's really easy to collect everyone's work in one place, and then it tells me, in a really simple way who's missing what and what we still need. So if you can go ahead and we'll stop doing the emailing. So stop emailing me your assignments. You're going to turn in all of your assignments through Google Classroom because that's really turning out to be the most efficient way to collect things. All right, so if I see it in Google Classroom is turned in, that's how I'll know it's completed. And if you send me an email, I'm going to ask you to submit it through Google Classroom so that we're gonna work on making everything through the Google Classroom so that it's just collected in one place. Okay, as always, you're free to email me with any questions. I'm here for you. If you need guidance or you'd like additional reference resources, just send me an email. I am going to attach your 2 reference resources for working with fractions and equivalent fractions to your Google Classroom assignment today. Okay, so guys, just get this done. Get this done today, turn it in through Google Classroom, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.